I think mine is only to spend like 2 or 3 minutes just to welcome you to Kenya CIC and to start University and to continue the promise of really trying to help you as our clients and with the aim of really changing your businesses, and that's why we are organizing this kind of events. Today we are talking about pillars of business excellence, and Tazim, who will be presenting this to us today, is a speaker. We are very lucky today we have a speaker, a trainer, a writer, and a poet, all put in one, and that is Tazim. And she's also a paradigm shifter. So this, I expect it to be a little bit different because we are going to shift our paradigms and change the status quo, hopefully, at the end of this. And I must acknowledge the power of presence that I can already sense here. Tazim is known to be able to have a powerful presence, even in slums, in communities, in businesses, in boardrooms, and this is what I expect to be happening this afternoon. And I will really encourage her to talk to us also about her life experience, because I think it's her life experience which have made it, or have made her to be what she is today, and I think we will also want to have that kind of transformation. I also feel that she should also talk about quite a bit of powers, how to understand our power, because I believe we all have energy and we have power, and this power will help us to understand ourselves more, and therefore be able to accept ourselves the way we are. I also think that it is going to bring, or our talk is going to bring some change, and especially the change to the society. We are all, and for that now, Kenya CIC, the effort is to transform the world by providing clean tech kind of solutions. So I'm really looking forward to this, and Tazim, most welcome. And I also very interested to know why you are called Indian Black Butterfly. I'm very keen to understand that. I'm most welcome, and I don't want to spend more time here. Please. Thank you.
If you're running your own business, or you're intending to run your own business, and you're intending to become your own person, you cannot afford to be shy. You cannot afford to sit in the back. You cannot afford to play second best. You have to know who you are. You have to trust yourself. You have to recognize the qualities you have in order for other people to recognize them. And if you don't recognize them for yourself, and you don't hold yourself up in high esteem, how do you expect anyone else to? Okay, so I'm not conventional, I'm not traditional, I don't do things the way everybody else does them. I do them completely differently. And because I do them completely differently, I'm going to start by answering Edward's question on why do I call myself the Indian Black Butterfly. So I'm going to have to tell you a little bit about myself, and he did ask that I say a little bit. I don't like to make this about me. I'm here because of you, not because of me. So I want to make sure that I take enough time with you, but I will have to take a little bit of time with me. So I grew up in Kenya. I was born here, grew up here. And what happened was I didn't really like the community I was born in. I didn't like the religion I was born in. I didn't really like the way people behaved in that community. I didn't understand why there was such a lot of separation and segregation. I didn't understand why I was only allowed to talk to certain people, and why I had to go to certain schools, and why I had to behave in a certain way. And so because I didn't understand it, I didn't accept it. And then I was too young, so as I was too young to do much about this, I had to wait until I was old enough to make a decision to change where I was born, which community I was born in, and what I could do about it. So what happened basically was I ran away from home at 17 and a half, because I didn't want to be part of something that didn't work for me. Now that doesn't mean I tell you guys to run away from home. That was my experience. And the one thing you guys need to understand is that everybody has their own experience, okay? So I'm sharing my story because it is an interesting story. Even for me, when I speak it, it's so far away now. When I speak it and I think about it, I think, my God, did I have courage? Did I have guts, to do something when I was so young? So I ran away from home and I went to go to a job because I just finished my O-levels. I didn't even have my results. And I managed to find a job. And because I managed to find a job, I managed to get out of the house so that I found a place to live where this lady charged me a very low rent because I loved cooking and I loved children, and her child would come to visit at weekends. So I managed to get a really good deal. It's what they call au pair in France and in other places. So that's how I survived. And then life happened. I worked hard, I got into a better position. I met who is now my ex-husband, but I met my husband-to-be then. And he's an interesting mix. He's quarter Kikuyu, quarter Dutch, quarter Nandi, quarter British. So, married him, had our babies, we had 2 daughters. Lots of learning because I moved from the Indian culture into a different culture, into a mixed culture. And the mixed culture consists of everything you can think of. And these were 4 mixes we're talking about, right? So of course there were challenges. And I don't like to stereotype. However, our Kenyan men need to change. And our Kenyan men need to change because you guys, and I hope some of you have already changed in this space, you guys think you can do what your grandfathers and great-grandfathers used to do. Maybe even your fathers. Where, you know, the whole polygamous thing, even if it's not polygamous, it's, you have, I get that now, 1 mistress is not enough. That you need 2 and 3 mistresses, especially if you've got a good paycheck. That's not healthy. It's not healthy. It's not healthy for you. It's not healthy for the women you're interacting with, and it's not healthy for your kids, and it's not healthy overall. On that note, I'm going to talk to the women as well. Women are doing exactly the same thing. I get it. Okay, I'm not one of them, so I can't speak for myself. But again, this is becoming the trend. And it's a good segue from where I was at in my story to say that these things break homes. So my home didn't last. After 17 years, I went for a divorce, I got custody of the kids. By now, I had worked myself into a really good position. I was in tourism, I'd started from nothing. I was now general manager of one of the top 5 inbound tour operators in Kenya. I'd worked myself crazy, I'd worked, I'd learned, I'd traveled, I had everything I knew I learned while I was on the job. And one of the things that was very, very interesting, the reason why I could rise, because I'm talking about, 2 decades ago, 2.5 decades ago, women didn't rise to positions of authority and power. And I don't like the word authority, but that's what people call it. And the reason I managed to get somewhere was because I kept my word. Because I made sure that whatever I promised was delivered. I didn't use empty words. I didn't make empty promises. So I rose from nothing to manager and then general manager. It was hard work, but it was also very satisfying. So then following that, what happened was I went for a divorce. And you know what divorces are. How many people are divorced in the room? Show of hands. One? Is it just you and me then? Oh, okay. Two, thank you. There is a stigma around divorce in this country. So a lot of people stay married because people are going to put them down. They'd rather suffer a really bad relationship that's unhealthy than get divorced because the whole town's going to talk about you. Well, I didn't care, and I don't care now. Okay, I don't, because it's my life, and I have to live it. Nobody else is going to live my life for me. So if you're in an unhealthy relationship, go for counseling, go for help, and if you can't be helped, leave. Honestly, it is unhealthy to waste your life while somebody else is draining you of energy or you're draining them of energy. So that is important to understand about relationships. And I'll come back to that as we get into talking some more. Kudos to you and you for putting your hand up, because it's not easy to put your hand up in these places. Okay? So, as I went through the divorce, I went through a very, very interesting situation. It took me 18 to 24 months for the whole process. And this process was grueling. In the courts, with the lawyers, with my ex-husband, who's one of my best friends today, by the way. Today, he's one of my best friends. But at that time, it wasn't. At that time, he probably wanted to hang me from the ceiling, right? And so, as I went through this process, I started to reevaluate my life and ask, what am I doing here? Why am I here? What are we all doing here as human beings? And there must be some bigger picture that will tell us, or there must be some bigger reason that will make us understand what we're here to do. But how do I get to that understanding? So what I did was I started a very, very long and very interesting journey inwards. So I was working on one side, making money to put the food on the table for my two daughters, paying the bills, etc. And on the other side, I went on this inner journey to find out what my existence means. What am I doing here? Why was I born this color? Why was I born a woman? Was I here before in another form? Was I going to come back after? I wanted to find answers. I wanted my life to have more meaning. And I couldn't have more meaning if I didn't understand the basics of life. So I started this. I went to courses, I read books, I started meditating, and for any of you who might be interested, meditation has no religious connotation. So if any one of you is interested in going on an inner journey, don't run away from meditation because you're afraid you're going to lose your religion. You can keep your religion and you can meditate. Okay? So as I went through this, and the divorce came through, I decided it was time for me to clean the slate that I had in front of me. So I went through the divorce. I resigned from my job, which I'd been in for 15 years, and I reached, the top glass ceiling, really. And I decided we had to move house, of course, because once you're divorced, you can't live together, can you? That would be an interesting scenario, but it doesn't generally happen. So I left. So I changed everything. Changed my home, left my job, and got divorced. And that was an interesting time because that's a time when I realized who really cared about me and my life. Because mostly everybody fell away. Okay? And the reason why everybody fell away is because you don't want to be talking to someone who's done something that society doesn't accept. I didn't care. It was all right. I had made a decision. I had to face the consequences. And what I did was I took an 8-month sabbatical. I was so exhausted because I'd been working 14 to 15 hours a day. I was getting 4 to 5 hours of sleep between the children, the home, my job, and my ex-husband's business, where I did the accounting. I didn't get much time to myself. So for this nearly 8 months, I slept a lot. I was sleeping 12 to 14 hours a day. And what I was doing was I was re-energizing. And I was putting my mind in order so that I would be ready, strong, and ready to face the world when I would go back out again. So when I went back out again, I joined the Hiltons as Director of Sales and Marketing, and I was with them for 3 years, at which time I met the man I dated for the next 7 years, and our lives took us to Canada. We were in Canada for 9 years. I left him 7 years after, while we were still in Canada. Till today, we're best of friends as well. So these things are possible. And while I was in Canada, I did 2 main jobs. First one was consulting with Alitalia, the international Italian airline, for 2 years. And it was amazing. But what happened was September 11th. When the Twin Towers crashed, the economy crashed. Airlines were totally affected. And we went from a certain way of living, from a certain lifestyle, because we both had good jobs, to counting pennies, literally. And it was the most humbling, those were the most humbling moments in my life, because that wasn't the first time. I'd been there before. Where you do something, you do really well, you got money in the bank, and then the kids need it for this, and then someone needs it for this, and you need to buy this, and suddenly you have no money in the bank. Suddenly you're counting pennies. And it happens to people, it happens to human beings. And there's no shame in it. It's life. What makes the difference is how do you handle it. So while I counted my coins, I created a ritual which made me laugh, and I wasn't upset that I was counting coins. And then slowly I joined a real estate firm at the head office in charge of customer service, and basically that lasted me for 6 years. I went from taking care of customer service to affiliate programs, to referral management systems, to training. Then I started training. I've been scared of switching on a computer in 1997, because in Kenya we were still not really using computers at that time. All right? And now, in 2003, 2004, I'm teaching tools, systems, and technology, online classrooms, and I'm literally saying, am I really doing this? So I went from being scared mindless of technology to embracing it to a point where I could teach online. And then I went on to teach and share. One of my biggest groups was 300 people, okay? So after 6 years with them, they sold the company back to the US, and I knew things would change because there was a whole dynamic around it. And so I had to make up my mind. What did I want to do next? And literally, within a split hour, I made a decision to come back home. That was 5 years ago. And I came back 5 years ago with absolutely no idea what I was going to do. Since I left my community and my family behind so many years ago, the only person I could come back to was my ex-husband. So I called him up. By this time we'd made peace. We'd done a lot of talking. We discussed the children. We'd done all that stuff. And I said to him, for the first time in my life, I need some help. I'm coming back home. I don't know what I'm going to do. And I don't know where to go, and I don't know what to do. I said, sure, I can go and rent an apartment. But I said, just for the first month or two, I really need to be able to put my feet on the ground. And he says, all right, come home. I went and stayed with him and his girlfriend in my mother-in-law's house for 2 months. I was crying, as you can imagine. It wasn't so easy for her, understandably, okay? Because not everyone is as open-minded as I am. So, stayed with them for 2 months, and then got an apartment. And the question he asked me when I arrived is, what are you going to do? And I said, I don't know. He said, well, I'm not concerned about you, but why don't you get back into tourism? I said, why would I go back to anything? If I go back to something, that means I'm going backwards. Why would I go back? I'm only going to go forward. So what are you going to do? I said, I have no idea. And so, this work started to create itself. Within the first week of my arrival, I was on Citizen TV. I met this guy who I've known since he was a young boy, a friend of my daughter's, introduced me to his girlfriend. She says, what do you do and how do you live your life? And I said, for me, it's about shifting mindsets, getting people to think from a different place, and change. And not just change, because sometimes there are different types of changes. We think change is just one type of change. No, there's different types of changes. There's regressive change, there's progressive change, and there's stagnant change. And we all think that when we're changing, we're always going forward. We're not. So we need to recognize the different types of changes. And so I said, so for me, it's the progressive type of change that's important. And she invited me on her breakfast television talk show. And there I was being asked questions, and I was like, oh my goodness. I'm on TV in Kenya, I've only been here like 8 days. And then that was it. It just started to roll. And one of the events that I started in Canada, even though I was working full-time, I started this monthly event, which I call the Invisible Corner. And the Invisible Corner was about people coming, writing a question or a topic they wanted to discuss. And we put it in a bowl, so there'd be about 10 or 15 or 20 people. And then we pick one, and we discuss that for about an hour and a half. So when I got here, I started that event, and that's my fun night. My monthly event now, which is called the Open Corner, or the Funky Corner, is once a month, and that's my fun night. And people think that's how I earn my money. There's no way I could survive on what I get in that one night. What my real work is, which created itself, is this that I'm doing. And then I started putting together workshops and retreats for high-powered organizations. Don't ask me how, don't ask me where, or how it came about. But someone called me up and said, can you come and do a workshop for us? We're having some conflict issues within the team. We don't have coherence. And this was a guy I worked with at the Hilton all those years ago, and he says, come and sort my people out, and they're giving me aggro. So went in, did my first workshop. Then I had one CMP, Center for Multi-Party Democracy, call me up and say, do you think you can come help us, just get prepared for the next year ahead of time and strategize and da-da-da. And I said, yeah, sure. And I put something together, and from that, it grew now to I've worked with USAID, I've worked with Planning Interiors, I've worked with loads of organizations, getting their organizations or companies from this place into this place where delivery, performance, attitude, behavior, biases, all that stuff is concerned, okay? So that's what I do. Now, why did I call myself the Indian Black Butterfly? Now it's easier to explain because I denied being Indian for most of my life. So suddenly a few years ago, I thought, you know what, I can't wash it off. It won't wash off. So Indian, black, because I really consider myself black. I'm African. I was born in Kenya. I'm born on the African continent. And butterfly, because butterfly is the greatest symbol of freedom and transformation. So does that answer your question? So I think that's enough about me now. Now, what do you guys want to know about today? What do you think you want to know about? Do you want to know about how to be better people? Do you want to know about how to be more successful? And what does success mean to you? What does, actually, I prefer that question. What does success mean to you? Who wants to answer that? Yes?
Making more money and being happy about it.
All right, does anyone else, thank you. Does anyone else have a different answer? Have you got a different answer?
Very similar to this.
Similar. Okay, making more money and being happy about it. Okay, anyone else have a different answer? Yes, please.
Adding a smile to the hopeless.
Please say that again.
Adding a smile to the hopeless.
Adding a smile to the helpless. Okay, all right, great, thank you. What else? Thank you.
Transforming people's lives.
Transforming people's lives, fantastic. Okay, we're moving with this. What else? Yes, please. Do you think you can stand up and say it loud enough for everyone to hear?
Okay, for me, success is moving from.
Success for me is moving from one point to another, the intended point that you want to move to. So you move to one point to another, and for me that is success.
Like I said, you can't be shy, and you have to learn to be able to speak like I'm speaking. People say this is a gift. I think everybody has the gift. You just have to know that you can do it. Most people are scared to stand up in front of a room and speak. I decided a long time ago that if I was going to be scared of a group of strangers, that would mean there's something seriously wrong with me. Yeah? And that I should be able to say what I want to say. Don't you think you agree with me? You're smiling, yes? So, any other thoughts on what success means? Come on, you guys are smiling. You have something to say. Yes, please.
To me, success is being at a point in my life beyond finances. It's back to basics. Now I have the time to do the things that I enjoy most.
Which is?
Which is going back to the basics. Taking care of, as somebody said, something about enriching life. Giving out, philanthropy. That is my definition. That's the highest point of success I can do for me.
Okay, thank you. So sharing for you is the highest point of success? And going back to basics? Simplifying your life?
Yes.
I don't want to put words in your mouth, but is that what you're saying?
That's what I'm saying.
That's what you're saying. Okay, great. Okay, what is success? What is success?
I think I have a different idea about success. For instance, let's say I want to come from this point to that place. If I come from this point to that place, then I reach there, I will say I'm successful. So in life, if I say that by 2030 I want to have a house, a car, and a wife, then I go there and by 2030 I have that, I'll say I'm successful without actually transforming life. So success is actually planning, doing, achieving, and saying successful. The part that money plays, the money that actually facilitates me.
Okay.
I actually believe in making money work for me, not me working for money.
Just from the way you're speaking and from the way you're thinking, you're reading different stuff.
Yes.
Okay? Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much for that. So what is success? You know, I used to think that success was pegged to money, pegged to how much I have, pegged to what kind of clothes I wear, pegged to the car I drive. That's what I've been conditioned to believe forever and ever and ever, that, you know, you would only be someone or be something when you have a certain bank balance, when you have a certain way people see you, and then you're successful. So what I did was decide to really challenge all those norms. And by challenging those norms, I decided that I am not going to do what society expects me to do. We live in a world where we are expected to become people that are not the people we're born to be. And it's important for everyone to understand this. Culture, tradition, religion, society, the good things about all these aspects, but there's some very, very damaging aspects of culture, tradition, religion, etc. Okay? And it's important to recognize which ones you want to accept and which ones you want to put away. Because you do have the right, as a human being, to create your individuality and to follow your own path. That is the whole reason you were given life. You're not given life so that you become part of the sheep. And most people are sheep. 95% of the population are made into sheep from the time they're very young. They're conditioned, okay? You get 5% of people that will actually stand up for themselves, that will actually recognize that they need to be different, that they need to do something different. So for me, what success means is that I'm a successful human being. And what I mean by that is that I am able to be with myself, to go to bed at night, to wake up in the morning and be happy with who I am. The good, the bad, and the ugly. Because let me tell you, I can get ugly. I can get so tough. I can get so tough. Especially when I'm dealing with, say for example, if I'm dealing with conflict management. No one wants to talk about conflict management. No one likes to be confrontational. I am confrontational friendly. I love it. Show me a problem and I'll get into it and I'll chew it and I'll spit it out. And I'll have a solution for you. Okay? The reason why we're not supposed to be confrontational friendly is because we're supposed to sweep all our stuff under the carpet. We are not supposed to address problems. That's the way we grow up. And that doesn't help us. That does not help us at all. We have to learn how to deal with issues as they arise. You have to learn how to resolve problems. You have to learn how to deal with life. From the time we're little, no one tells us life is going to be tough. No one says, you need to learn how to negotiate. You need to have some skills that you're going to need badly, desperately in life. So you need to learn how to negotiate. You need to learn how to communicate. You need first communicate actually. You need to learn how to express your feelings. You need to learn what it is to be honest, to have integrity. You need to know what it means to trust. No one tells us these things. In fact, the way we're taught values is in reverse. If you lie, you're going to get into trouble. No one tells us that if you tell the truth, we'll be able to deal with the situation. So the way we're brought up, this is global conditioning, but more on our continent. It has gone on, and part of it is because of our colonial hangover, that whole authority power thing has had a very negative connotation on us. There's a whole lot of reasons. The part of religion that I don't agree with, it's very patriarchal. Women have always been put down. And so I don't agree with that because any script you read says every human being is equal. So then why are women second-class citizens? Right? So when you start looking at this whole picture, you need to identify for you what is real, what is true, what works, and what doesn't work. And if you don't start questioning those things for yourself, no one's going to come question them on your behalf. So being successful for me is being able to be who I am without anyone telling me who to be, how to be, what to be. And there is absolutely no connection to money. I know money is important. I am not going to say money is not important. You guys are in business. Money is important. Money pays the bills. Money talks. We know this. But how do you create that balance? How do you create that balance of knowing that you need money for not just survival, but existence? And how do you do what you do that you really enjoy and do it really well? See, I didn't come here with a prepared speech. I didn't come here with a PowerPoint presentation because, like I said to Ernest and Edward, I know that you guys are always looking at PowerPoint presentations. If you're sitting in this room, you're always looking at them. So I wanted to do it differently. I wanted to have communication, okay? And so how do you do what you do and have, give, and receive the best benefits? So the first thing I'm going to ask you is, what is communication? What does communication mean to you?
Simply expressing yourself clearly, that's it. That's communication for me, expressing yourself clearly. It could be negative, it could be positive, but so long as you can express yourself clearly to another person, you've communicated.
Okay, great, thank you.
I think it's what you said, expressing yourself clearly, but also having your audience understand what you're trying to say.
Okay, great, thank you. Great.
To be able to understand what you're telling me, and for you to be able to understand what I'm telling you, and then it's a discussion we're having to either agree on an outcome or disagree on the outcome, but both of us know we're either in agreement or not in agreement. Basically.
So just what we did about the money thing, right?
Yes. Yeah. You said it's not important.
Well,
and
I
then,
said it's not primary.
oh, it's not primary, and I was like, you said money talks, the rest to walk. No, I finished. When you said money talks, and I said the rest to walk. So I didn't say it, I thought it.
Okay.
More or less.
Okay.
Yes. So communication is basically when two parties, each party can understand what the other is saying, and then from there, both parties will either come to an agreement, if that makes sense. Whether they agree or disagree, they both agree on the outcome.
Okay. Yes.
To me, communication is relaying a message where there is a sender and a recipient, and at the end of the day, there is some form of feedback, so it's a complete.
Okay. You say things, do you always make sure you do them within the time frame that you actually give the other person? So for example, if I say, I'm talking from a business point of view, if you get an email saying I'd like XYZ, and I want it by this time, and can you please tell me what the cost is? Very simple email. Most of the time, people don't even answer their emails within the same day. How many people answer their emails within the same day? Okay, it's not good enough. International global protocol demands that you answer your email within 2 hours, 4 hours, 8 hours max. And if you don't answer your email within 8 hours, you must have an auto-response that tells that person that you're going to get back to them the next day. So I'm starting with email communication, okay? So first of all, if you're not answering, we're going to talk about delivery, we're going to talk about presentation, we're going to talk about how you guys can become what you ought to be, okay? So email, let's start with basic email communication. Secondly, whatever you say in that email, if you're given any time frames, any timelines that you will deliver by such and such date, you must make sure that you have a task, a reminder in your task 2 days before to make sure you're going to deliver. that happens, which drives me mad, is I send an email with 4 questions, and I get a response with only 2 questions being answered. It drives me bananas. So I write back and I say, did you not read my email? You haven't answered 2 of the questions. So then I get a response with a 3rd answer. The 4th one's still missing. Okay, don't do that kind of stuff. You want to be professional, you read the email twice. You answer every single question. You're being asked for a price, you give a price. You're being asked for a time frame, you give a time frame. You're being asked to give quantity, quality, whatever it is, give the information. Now, if you are not communicating, here's what I'm going to tell you. Those people that raise their hands that say you answer your emails within the same day, you actually have a plus point. Because if you can communicate by email in good time, then you must have some communication skills. Those of you that don't communicate on email within 24 hours, within 8 hours actually, you already have a problem with communication. Secondly, let's get to verbal communication. So why do you think God, if she's a she or he's a he, gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth?
Yeah, so that you can listen a lot and speak less.
Ears perform another function of actually stabilizing the body. So we need to actually hear that in the center. That you can have a good balance.
So literally, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth because we really need to learn to listen. In this high-tech 21st century, people are so busy being on their iPads, iPhones, BlackBerry, Samsung, whatever it is, laptops, and it's never ending, the gadgets we have, okay? So everybody's on 2 or 3 gadgets at a time, and couples go out for dinner, they eat their meals while they're both talking to different people. And answering text messages and emails. I have seen it and it's disgusting. I see people sitting down, they're wearing designer clothes, all done up, they're on a date. Whether they're a couple or whatever it is, they're sitting down and they're just playing with their toys. What does that mean? You're using your eyesight. But people are forgetting to use the art of speech and the art of listening. Communication really is about face-to-face. Now what happens most of the time is before someone finishes a sentence, you have already decided what they're going to say, okay? 1, because you're probably quite smart. 2, because you're assuming, that doesn't make you too smart. And 3, because you've forgotten how to listen. And the art of listening in any business practice is one of the greatest arts. Where you can really hear, not only just hear what the person is saying, but understand by looking at them what they're experiencing. But you can't do that if you're too busy answering back. Okay? So if you want to run your businesses, you've got to be great communicators. The other thing you need to know is to get ahead in this world. So we're talking about 21st century model enterprises. That's where I would put you guys in. You're not 20th century. So you can't operate as 20th century models. Because 20th century models are so outdated, are out of style, out of place in today's world. What does that mean? What does 21st century model enterprise mean? It means that you have to be current. And to be current, you have to use technology. You have to use latest technology. To be current, you can't operate on the basis of the way we used to operate in the last century. You can't treat staff like you own them. Slavery ended many, many years ago. But I walk into organizations and I'm shocked at the way people are treated. Okay? So you can't treat people like that anymore. You have to give people respect. You have to give people ownership. You have to make people understand what their responsibilities are. So you and the people that you work with have to work from a different place. It has to be quality. It has to be from a more open-minded way of behaving, from a place where you can communicate, where you can address conflict, where you can confront problems, where you can address non-performance and non-delivery. And if you can't do that, then you're not going to grow your organizations. Okay? So you have to treat people differently. And that starts with how you treat the lady who cleans your house at home. So I was invited to speak to a group of Rotarians. And this was about 4 years ago, and I really pissed them off. I made them really upset. And I tend to do that. I tend to upset people because I push their buttons, and I challenge their norms. I have no problems with that. I'm okay when someone gets upset, okay? Because when you're upset, what I've done is I've kicked you out of your comfort zone. So when you're not in your comfort zone, you're going to start thinking differently. And the reason I made them upset was because I looked at their website, and I looked at all the wonderful things Rotarians do. I said, so now what am I going to go and talk to these people about? You know, they raise money for this, and they raise money for that, and they're in, you know, bringing water to this area, and they're giving books to this school. I said, they really do an amazing job. So, and their principles, the Rotarian principles are amazing. So what am I going to tell these people? So I walked in and I said, right, you know, why are you a Rotarian? And so, I mean, that kind of perked up the eyebrows and said, what do you mean, why are we Rotarians? It's a great group of people to join and to be part of. And I said, yeah, and why do you do what you do? He said, fantastic, you know, it teaches us how to give, this whole CSR thing, corporate social responsibility, and share, etc. I said, okay. And it gives us publicity, and it helps us expand our businesses. I said, okay. And I said, and how do you talk to your maid at home? Do you treat her the same way as you go out and treat these people that you're raising money for so that you can get your picture taken in the newspaper and get yourself really made to feel good? And they said, what's that got to do with anything? I said, it starts at home. Everything starts at home. How do you treat the person that cooks your meals, makes your bed, scrubs your floor, and make sure you can work 12 hours a day because when you get home there's a meal and your house is clean? How do you treat them? We have to start treating people equally. How do you treat a cab driver when you get into a cab? Do you bother asking that cab driver questions about themselves? Or do you just look at them like they're not worth talking to? I was very fortunate. I said I didn't want to drive on a Friday afternoon for the other end of town because of the traffic. So Ernest kindly arranged a cab for me. So I got in, and he was waiting for me to get into the back. I got up to the front. And then I had this full-fledged conversation with him, and he says, so what are you going to do? And he says, but how come you're talking to me? And I said, why shouldn't I talk to you? He says, because generally people don't talk to me. So you guys need to understand that in the 21st century, you have to treat human beings equally. Status is becoming something of the past. Soon it will be. Money doesn't define who you are. Money gives you comforts, but money doesn't define who a human being is. And if we're all born equal, most of you believe in a God and believe in a religion, we are equal. So why do we treat each other differently? You want to grow your businesses? You have to start looking at individuals, as human beings, not because of their skin color, because of how they dress, or because of how much money they have. So the most important part of my work is based on values. What are values? If you don't have values, you're nothing. So what are values? And it's something we're not taught, eh? Yes? And then over to him behind that.
Core beliefs.
Core beliefs?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
I was going to say.
Oh, sorry.
So the foundation of your beliefs.
So where's your foundation?
Were
you sitting on it?
You made me look. I guess it's experiences you have, your upbringing, and just your perception of things.
And I think it's things that are personally important to you.
I think that the principles that shape the way you live your life and the way you do things, let's call it principles that guide your life.
Principles that guide your life? Okay, can you give me an example?
Integrity, honesty.
Values are principles that guide your life. And principles that guide your life are not partial. So the thing is, integrity, honesty is one part of integrity. And honesty is not partial. Now, unfortunately, we've been taught to lie from the time we're children. Because the phone rings and the father picks up the phone and he looks at the mom and she says, I'm not in. So he says, no, she's not here. And you learn to lie through third party. Okay? You know that if you tell the truth, you're going to get into trouble. So to protect your skin, you start lying. Okay? This is something that happens. When you get to be a teenager, all those things you're not allowed to do, you want to do them. And so what do? You lie. And then when you're unhappy at home, you start lying to your partner. Doing things you're not supposed to be doing. And when you oversleep, you go lie to your boss. And when you don't finish doing something you're supposed to do, you lie. All these are excuses. In the 21st century, integrity has to start taking its steps up to being the most important value that we live by. And integrity means telling the truth at whatever cost. So if you know that you want to be a person of integrity, then don't do things that are going to make you lie. It's not easy. I tell you, I was brought up to lie. I lied through my teeth. I lied unflinchingly. I look you in the eye and I lie. And I tell you I'm telling the truth because that's what I was taught. And when I realized I had to change that, oh my goodness, it was work. It was work, but you know something? You go to anyone in this town that knows me, anyone, and ask them, if Tazim says something, will she do it? There's only one answer you're going to get, yes. Because I believe that I must keep my word in order for people to believe my word. And remember something, words are free. If each one of you had to pay for every single word you speak, you would be bankrupt. Every single one of you would have no money in the bank because each one of you does lie. To what extent, I don't know, and I can't break it down, and we don't have enough time to do that. So integrity is really, really important. Integrity avoids corruption. Integrity creates healthier relationships. Integrity makes people believe in you. Integrity makes people know you will deliver. Whatever you're doing, you need people to believe what you're saying. And you can't make them believe what you're saying if you don't believe what you're saying yourself. Any questions? Always a moment of silence. Somebody died.
Don't you think some lies are necessary?
For example?
Okay, I can't think of an example right now, but...
You can. I'll give you a minute.
When your wife asks you, do you want to look at this chick?
Thank you. All right. I got asked that question on MTV. Okay, I was on a breakfast interview, and I had over 1,000 calls, SMSs, emails after that interview. But that was the question that came up. What happens when my wife asks me if I look fat? Because women are daft. First of all, they ought not to ask their men such questions. They ought to look in the mirror for themselves. Now, if I was you, I'd say, yes, you look terrible. Why don't you go to the gym? Because you know what? Your wife already knows she looks fat. She already knows it. She just wants to have somebody help her with her misery. So she's going to pull your services, get you into trouble, to help her feel less guilty. So women, please don't ask your husbands and your partners those type of questions. It's unfair and it's not right. You know when you're not fitting into your clothes, go to the gym, start eating differently, start doing something different. Okay? And most of the times, it's been proved that what you see in the mirror, every woman looking in the mirror sees herself 3 times bigger than she really is. So if you understand that you're really not as big as you think you are, and if you stop comparing yourself to all the skinny models that are being put on magazines, you might really actually get to like yourself and accept yourself for who you are, because everybody's a different shape and everybody's a different size. You don't want to be overly obese because that's unhealthy, but if you have a little bit here and a little bit there, I can tell you that guys actually like it. Most guys. Guys, what do you think? Yeah? Don't you want a little bit to hang on to? Yeah. But you see, chicks, man, you guys are seeing things the wrong way. Yes. Please share that with us.
I'm just saying some love handles to hang on to.
There you go. Okay, guys don't tell you this, but there you go. Alright? Who can quote me? In your scripts, it says, do not lie. Does it not? So you go to church on Sunday, you go to mosque on Friday, and you ask your sins to be washed away because you lied the entire week. Instead of actually following the script. What is the other thing in your scripts that is really, really clear, but all of you do it? Coveting? Do you?
You see, it says, thou shalt not covet. But then again, people admire and you don't know, is it wrong to admire, or where do you draw the line? So, what, I don't know, because, you know, because I also think, also God admired stuff. And he created things. No, the Bible does say, he looked back and he saw it was good. Meaning he was admiring his own creation. And then it goes back to say, thou shalt not covet. And then covet, admire. So what does covet mean? I don't know, the way I was taught that, you know, because I went to Sunday school, I went to the whole Shannon. The way I was taught is that covet is to admire. You know, to admire, you know, in a certain, and then sometimes, you know, you get ideas. So I think when the admiration goes to the next level, now that's coveting. So the Bible does say that, and we all do it. I do it without bad intentions, but I find myself doing it all the time.
Thank you so much for being so honest. My God, that's not easy to have come out. Was it easy? Was it okay? Did you feel okay to say what you just said? You feel very okay. That's fantastic. Who else do you?
On a light note, because the Bible says don't covet your neighbor's wife.
That's what I remember.
So I think the limitation is the neighbor. So if it's not your neighbor's wife.
Well, how I started this talk earlier about my personal experience and about how more men than women, don't keep it in their pants and they go and distribute it more openly. So what it is there's a problem with trust. We have issues with trust in our relationships. And we have issues with trust because people don't trust each other. If you're in a relationship where you completely trust the other person, know that even if they look at someone and admire, beautiful Natasha here, that it's just appreciating someone and looking away because that person is not going to take him away. Trust is lacking. How many people grew up in homes where parents were fighting because the father was out, absent? Most of us children are single parent children. We need to start creating trust, and trust cannot happen unless you can trust yourself. So what you just said to me is you trust yourself to admire someone, and you trust yourself enough not to go beyond that. And that's what people ought to be doing. Don't you think?
I think so.
Yeah? I think that's a fantastic point. So thank you for bringing that up. So trust is totally lacking in our society. That's the reason why women, your married friends, are so insecure when they even have a ring on their finger, isn't it? And a certificate. They are more insecure than the single women. Me, I walk around, I am very happy I'm single at the moment. I have no issues. If I go and talk to a guy and his wife appears, I see some movement and I think, what the hell? What's going on here? Why are you guys reacting? It's because the women are insecure. And the women are insecure because men are doing what they're doing. They're 9-year-olds they don't talk about, okay? And this is happening all the time. We can't live like this. We can't carry on living in these kind of conditions. We will die. We will keep dying of diseases. We will keep dying of diabetes and heart attacks and cancer because all these negative emotions make us sick. And we need to get rid of them. We need to start living in healthier environments. If we, as one person doesn't start, and another person and another person, things will never change. And if things don't change, is this the kind of world you want your children and your grandchildren to grow up in? I don't. I don't want this world that I've had to grow up in to be the kind of world that I leave behind. It'd be very sad if people don't learn how to be honest, if people don't learn how to have integrity, if people don't learn how to trust. What a sad world it is. That's why people are so miserable. Most times, people they paint on a smile, they have a mask, but inside they're not happy. And now, materialism has hit our continent, has hit Kenya. Everything is about money. And money does not make you happy. Money buys you comforts. Money does not make you happy. Money does not contribute to your peace. Money is there for the use it has. It is an exchange, it is a currency. But for example, now love is a currency. Love is a currency. I love you. What are you going to give me? What can I get from you? And how much is it going to cost? I mean, 20 years ago, in Kenya, we weren't talking about the biggest diamond. Now I hear people talking about the diamond, the big wedding, the whole bridesmaids things, the Windsor, the this, the that, the that. And I'm saying, okay, you want to have a wedding? Fine. But do you have to do it this way? What are you doing it for? Why are you doing it? What are you trying to prove? Every action, everything you do, every action has an underlying motive. So you need to question every motive when you're taking an action. And is that motive coming from a good place or from a place of lack? or from a place of greed. Because greed and lack are best friends. And because we have lived in poverty for a long time, we think that by having money, we're rich. Richness doesn't come by money. Richness comes from the human being you are. And so we mustn't get caught up. You know why materialism has hit our continent now? Because we're the last continent with resources. We must know how to be able to separate the value of money and the value of life. When September 11th happened in New York, in Manhattan, and those two twin towers, or those twin towers came down, do you know how many thousands of people left Manhattan, left New York, because they couldn't carry on with that crazy life of working 12, 14 hours a day in the money markets, in these high buildings, in this kind of lifestyle, where from one day to the next, all these people died. It was a wake-up call then to reevaluate their lives. So money is important, but it is not the primary aspect of your life. And if you remember that, you won't just do things for money then. You will do things based on the value you give. Your life, the way you behave, and where you want to go, and what means something, what really matters. So that is really, really important. The most important thing, and using honesty, is whatever I said, I did. If I told you I'd get back to you by 2 o'clock today with some information you needed from me, and I didn't have it by 1:30, I would write to you and say, I'm sorry, I haven't got that information as yet. I know I promised you for 2 o'clock. I will get back to you by tomorrow 10 a.m. So I'll make sure I write to the person or call them and let them know that I couldn't get them what I'd initially set a time frame on because it wasn't in my control to get that information. So honesty in business means keeping your word. Okay? Now I'll give you an example. I went to a bank, and I'm not going to name names, and I asked for a loan. And I was told, X, Y, Z, blah, 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 okay, we're going to do this by this time. Day came, nothing. I had to call. We'll get back to you the next day. I called again. We'll get back to you. This went on for a whole week. And so finally I picked up the phone to the boss. And I said, will you guys stop wasting my time? You're offering me a service, you're not giving me money free. I'm going to make your bank a lot of money because you're going to charge me a whack load of interest. So, there is no need for me to be following up as a customer. It's your responsibility and duty to be updating me as to where this process is and what's going to happen next, okay? So in your businesses, if you say something and you don't do it, and you don't do it once, and you don't do it twice, remember something. There's always someone else to go to. And you will lose business, you will lose respect, and most importantly, you will lose the trust of your customer because they know you're not reliable. Don't say something unless you know you can do it. Don't make promises you cannot keep. Don't get married if you can't keep your vows. Don't say sweet nothings if you don't mean them, because they have no value. They're empty words. And the only reason my business has grown is because of my reliability. Is because people know when I say something, I will do it. And you can do it as well. You just have to change your bad habits that you have from before. It's only habits. You've created bad habits. You have to change your habits. You have to stop lying, and you can start being honest. You've gotten into a habit of lying. you stop lying. Gotten into a habit of saying nice things to people when you don't mean them, just because you want to impress them. Don't impress people. You don't need to impress anyone, because let me tell you something. If someone doesn't like you, they don't like you. You can impress them as much as you want. They already have an opinion of you. If I stop right now, and I take this microphone to each one of you, you already have an opinion of me. I've only spent an hour and a half with you, but you had an opinion of me the minute I stood in front here. And in 1 minute, 30 to 60 seconds, you had an opinion of me. She's this, she's that, she's the other. Then as I started to speak, you started to add on that opinion. So you already have an opinion of me. And I'm not here to change it, because what you think of me is not my business, it's yours. But at the end of the day, how am I going to control how the world thinks about me? It's not possible. So am I going to think about what the world thinks of me, or am I going to think about what I think of me? What's more important? What's more important? People will always have an opinion. But it depends on what that means to you. I say to people, whether you like me or whether you don't, it's the same difference, because your opinion doesn't rule my life. Most people, from the time they're little, want to be approved and accepted and loved and wanted, because if you're not loved and you're not wanted, then and you're not needed, why are you here? Well, we're not here to be needed, we're not here to be wanted, we're here to be loved. And we're here to love, but how can you love if you can't even be honest with each other? You can't trust each other. That love is not love. It's a currency of exchange called by the name of love. And that happens all the time. So on that note, and I have a few more notes which I haven't looked at. You can't afford to give a low-level service. Excellent service means flawless. You deliver, you perform, your customer's happy, and you resolve issues, because there's never a time in a business that you will not have problems. You will have problems, you will have complaints, you will have issues. Resolve them, give some money back if you need to, keep your customer happy so that they keep coming back. And respect your customer. If there's a customer that's abusive, let them go. Most people are scared to let a really abusive customer go because they're going to lose a lot of money. You let an abusive customer go, you're going to get 2 more customers that will give you twice the number of business. And this is what you have to learn. You have to trust your instinct. You have to trust what's inside here. But if you don't know how to listen to what's inside here, how can you trust it? I work with my gut. I can look at a person and I've learned how to sense how a person is